Hello, everyone. It is Chrissy and Bianca from Common Sense Education, and we are here, as we are every Tuesday, coming to you to tell you about cool tools you can use in your classroom. And of course, you can always come visit us at commonsense.org/education and get a ton of other reviews and myriad resources because we're here for you. And today, Bianca has a title for all of you. And Bianca, what is it today?
Today, we have a tool called Pixton. I'm excited to dive into this one. It's actually a comic creating platform
Yes.
that really showcases students' creativity. What were you going to say, Chrissy?
I just said yes.
Yeah,
Create those comics.
exactly. So, here are some screenshots of it. I'll dive into what the app looks like in just a second. But pretty much, Pixton uses comics and graphic arts to highlight students' artistic skills a bit, but also to really highlight literacy in really any subject. There's math on there, history, all different types of things. So we'll dive into it. Now, let's take a look. This one's actually super fun. So you see an avatar over here that you can create when you join, but you have a
Oh, wait.
comic maker, an
Wait, I'm going to
avatar.
add it. Here we go. Now we can see it.
Cool. So there's a comic maker, avatar maker. You can create your own classroom. You can create a staff photo or content back. So we'll go through some of these different sections, and then I also want to dive into some of the resources that they have as well. So the comic maker, of course, is the big function here. I was playing around with it earlier, gave myself a pet fish and such. But you can create a comic from scratch with all of these different scenes, different types of weather, characters. This option would really be if you want your kids or students to just create something from scratch and give them some kind of free play in a sense, or of course you could give them some type of structured prompt. For this piece, you can add all types of speech, caption, effects, faces. Students can create their own avatars. I'll show you what that looks like here. um, Unicorns. um, they can really dress up however they like. And what's really cool is there are features that are, let's see, pretty inclusive. You have different options for genders that you want to select from. You can also, let's see, there's different accessibility features here. You see, you can have your avatar be in a wheelchair, have a hearing aid, or different types of outfits, face shapes, really anything. So that's a really cool part about it. Um, and then there's also, if instead of creating a comic from scratch, you can also select the need an idea section where you can browse through some prompts that are already created. So if you want it to be about siblings or a favorite show or the news or something like that. But I think what's really special about this is that you can select the kind of objective that you want a student to learn from it. Like, okay, I want them to be able to build an argument or create a narrative. You can select from there and also choose the subject. So if it's an ELA, history, math, science, and you're going to be given pre-made templates that students can customize. Let's see. I guess there's no science narratives, but let's see. If you go to all objectives, let's see, explain the water cycle. So this would be a writing prompt that you could give to a student. You actually can't assign through the platform itself, which is a downside. You can't assign, and you also can't give grades through this program, but I'll show you a little bit of something that you can do as far as grading. But so you'd have to assign this to students outside of the program, and then they can just get started on their own within their own accounts. Any questions so far, Chrissy, that come up for you? Alrighty. So you have resources here. I think this is my favorite part of the whole site is lesson ideas, where it explains to teachers. I know some people are hesitant to maybe teach with comics or don't see the inherent value in them, but this is one way to explain all of the different options you have for teaching with comics. So You can select your grade level, the objective, and subject. This is a little bit more expensive than the library that we were just in. But it's really cool to just poke around in these. So one on 3D shapes, for example. And what's great about these is they have a description, also things that students should know before they start. It tells you roughly how long the lesson would be. That's really helpful, as well as the standards that it covers. So some good info for teachers there. And then they also include these extension activities or activities that you can do before the comics. It's kind of outside of the program, which is cool. So have students find a three-dimensional shape from your current unit of study. That's something that they can do outside, but then demonstrate their learning through within the comic, which is cool. Closure, differentiation, a lot of resources here for teachers. And these pre-made lesson plans are really easy to dive into. So I think that's a nice feature. So you can poke around here in the library or search for anything really that you're looking for. I will say, as it is with any tool, especially like in categories like history or things that need additional context, just be sure to treat those subjects with care and make sure that you're supplementing them with context and the extensive materials outside of this, because I think that just jumping into a comic without, too much background might be probably not the best idea, especially because some of them are pretty direct, and kids might just get the wrong idea about them. Certain historical instances, for example. But if we go back to resources here, those are the lesson ideas. Comic School is for when you're just getting started. It helps to give students kind of a crash course on how to begin making their comments. So what are the elements, what are the core parts of creating one? How do you set a setting, the characters? This is like a quick guide for them to walk through to learn how to do these things. And it comes in Google Slides, all different types of formats, worksheets that you can take a look at. And there's a lot more here, so hold on. Story starters. This part is cool. So when we're talking about the teachers not necessarily being able to give direct feedback within the program, you do have this interactive rubric, which students could use to grade themselves. So after they've created a comment, they can take a look at it. Don't know what this box is up here. Don't worry about that. But you can take a look at it and judge it based on these categories of oops, fair, fine, and mint. And once you click on it, it can kind of tell you what type of comic would fall into each of these categories. So for here, we have background and focus, and that's literally the background of the comic itself and what, like, how much of the character is in focus in that shot. So here you see this is what an oops would look like. This is fair, because you see some variation here, a little more variation, and mint would be something that, gives different perspective and dimension into it. So that's like one area, but you have characters and expression. These are kind of fun to look through. So this is what an oops would look like. This is what mint would look like. So students are able to grade themselves and kind of think critically about their creations. The only thing is teachers are not able to give this feedback to students, but at the end, they can actually create a PDF of it and print it out as a rubric of their own creation. This part, we have principles, which are supplementary activities that students can do alongside their comics. So you have T-charts, character maps, main idea webs. So really anything that you create within those comics, you can supplement with using these to kind of bring it into the classroom, or vice versa. You can start with the main idea web and then bring it into a comic, for example. But there's really a lot that you can do here with these templates, which I think is pretty nice.
And those are super handy, even, if you're not using Pixton, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And I guess one thing to point out here, though, all these features are available for free for the first 7 days. So it's really a trial run. And then after that, let's see what the cost is. After that, oops. So yeah, so you can create a teacher account for about $10 a month, or you can get a subscription with student access too on a monthly basis. So just floating that it is not a free site to use, but you can consider whether or not you feel it's worth it for your classroom. Any thoughts or questions from you, Chrissy?
It actually has more features than what I remembered last time I've looked at Pixton,
Yeah.
and it strikes me that you can use it for so many different cases, classroom
Right.
cases, and lots of different activities, and even just the planning of a comic, is really great. Executive functioning and
Mhm.
all kinds of other skills that you can draw in. So if it's something that you might use kind of on the regular, it might be worth the subscription.
Yeah. And then I agree. And then here, just to point out some other cool features, you can create your own classrooms and then have students, once they've completed their comics, they all show up in that spot. Or you can have students send out the links of their finished comics to people to kind of get that real world field feedback. That's another nice element. And then there's just some other fun stuff you can do. Like you can create different characters or a classroom of your students. Like each of their avatars and put it together into you can't quite see it here because it's just me, but if you saw the image of just my avatar standing in the classroom, that would be accompanied by kids, which I think is fun. Here you can highlight any comics that you feel are really strong depending on how you set up your classroom. If that's something you want to do, show some examples, you can add them here. Maybe I'm not sure if you can rename this to something else, but you can use examples there. um, and there is also some information about how you can assess it. So you can, of course, use the rubric, the interactive rubric, just kind of separate from the site. Again, it's not integrated, but if you want to use some of those categories to do so, you can do that. Or you can take a look at some of this information that we have here about how to assess them and take a look at them, whether it's a formative assessment or a diagnostic assessment, or even summative to kind of uh, see how a comic could be graded in a sense if you're unsure about that piece.
That's great. Looks like Pixton has a ton of things that teachers can use, and it won't. I mean, it's not cheap, but again, if you're going to use it heavily, it might be worth the cash.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Bianca.
For sure.
And again, come back next Tuesday for another tool. Come visit us, commonsense.org/education. We are here all the time for you. And like, subscribe. We'll see you again.